And today is a critical day for the Trump agenda on Capitol Hill as the House of Representatives is now set to vote on a budget resolution. Scripps News Group's Joe St. George live, as always, in Washington to give us some insight on what's happening in Washington. So explain what is tied to this debate, Joe.
Well, Blaine, let's start with the why you should care, right? If you're waking up having your coffee with us this morning, if you're somebody, let's say you work in the service industry, maybe you're getting ready for work. If you're someone who likes the idea of no taxes on tips, if you're somebody who voted for President Trump because of border wall funding, maybe you're a retiree and you're at least interested in learning more about President Trump's discussion about no taxes for Social Security benefits. Well, all of that is stuff that the president can't do on his own. He needs Congress to enact a bill that gets through the House and gets through the Senate and gets through the White House. And even though Republicans control the House and the Senate and the White House, moving things like that, it just doesn't work like that in American democracy. It can be difficult, it can be painstaking, and it can face critical test votes like the one that we're going to see today. What we're seeing today, basically think of it as starting the debate about the big Trump agenda. You're talking about massive amounts of money geared towards tax cut changes, spending provisions. The challenge for Speaker Mike Johnson in the Republican House is that he can only afford to lose a few votes and pass this thing today. Democrats aren't going along with this. And he's facing pressure from some moderate Republicans who are concerned about some of the cuts that have been proposed to justify this government spending. You have some moderate Republicans who are concerned about the possibility of changes to Medicaid. You have some more conservative members who say the federal spending cuts don't go far enough. So in the world of Capitol Hill, this is one of these key votes that really sets in motion perhaps a chain of events that ultimately results in a government-wide changing piece of legislation. We'll see by the end of the day if Republicans are moving on this or not. Stay tuned, as we like to say in TV news, Blaine.
And we're also, Joe, you mentioned stay tuned. We are closely keeping an eye on what could be just the latest government shutdown threat. I know you've been talking about that. So Democrats now in the minority, are they going to sit back and say, we're going to shut it down?
I know what people are thinking. Oh, Joe and Blaine aren't talking about another possible threat, shutdown threat, right? It's been a minute, right? We usually talk about one every 6 months or so. Here's the deal. Government runs out of money in 17 days. So the clock is starting to begin to tick. We're not putting up any countdown to shutdown clock on your screen just yet. But this is why this fight is a bit unique. Traditionally, at least in recent years, what's ultimately avoided a shutdown is Republicans and Democrats coming together. There's always been a handful on both sides that want to fight, that vote no, but ultimately it's Democratic leaders, Republican leaders coming together to avert a shutdown, keep the government open. Well, here's the thing right now. There's a lot of frustrated Democrats on Capitol Hill. They're worried about these cuts that President Trump appears to be doing unilaterally. They're worried about DOGE. They're worried about Elon Musk. The question is, do Democrats go along with the ride this time or not? Or do they stand up and say, hey, we're prepared to shut down the government because there's talk of shutting down the Department of Education? It's one of the many storylines we'll be watching as the calendar prepares to flip to March. March is going to be busy in Washington, Blaine. We also have President's big address to Congress on March 4th.
Lots to watch over the next several days. We know you and the team at Scripps News Group will take care of that for us. Joe St. George live in Washington this morning at 5:37.